It's interesting. Some people are really concerned. They are worried that there's a weapon that Tinubu and his APC team can use against Peter Obi to disqualify him. And that weapon is that Peter Obi's name is not in the LP register. Yes, it is true that the lawyers or the legal team for Tinubu and APC have stated this in their defense and their reply to Peter Obi's petition. It is true. And the only witness they even have right now, which is the Senator Omoyele Dele, is actually part of his witness statement that is submitted that Peter Obi's name is not in Labour Party or LP's register. Now, my brother, I understand your concern, but really, there is no need to worry. There is no cause for alarm. Simply because the register of Labour Party is the sole property of Labour Party. It's the exclusive property of Labour Party. And the last time I checked, Senator Omoyele Dele or Tinubu or APC, they are not members of the Labour Party. So the only authentic register that can be presented can only be presented by Labour Party. I guess this is why they tried to use Lamidi Akpakpa to infiltrate the Labour Party so they can manipulate the Labour Party register. I guess so. I'm guessing. That's my guess now. But it's not a problem because they are not a member of the Labour Party. When it is time for the final submissions, of course, Labour Party will present their own register and you'll see that that register contains Peter Obi's name. So there's no cause for alarm at all, at all. But let's even assume for the sake of argument that indeed Peter Obi's name is not in the register. For the sake of argument, nothing else. We should not forget that a similar case has actually been brought and the Supreme Court ruled. Just before the inauguration of Tinubu, the Supreme Court ruled that PDP and Atiku were not members of APC and as such did not have legal local standard to contest the internal party affairs of APC. And because of that, their suit was struck out by the Supreme Court just before the inauguration. Now, if we go by that, then it will simply mean that even if Peter Obi's name is not in the Labour Party register, because the Electoral Act 2022 did not specify that your name not being on the party's register is a requirement to contest for an election, then that is not a problem. In fact, the whole essence of this register thing is to take care of a situation where you have multiple people laying claims to being the presidential candidate of a party. Then the INEC will then resort to the party register submitted to them to look at which candidate to queue behind. And in this case, there's only one candidate of Labour Party, so there is no need to begin to look upon the party register as the case may be. There's no need for it because there's no discrepancy, there's no contestations that the register is needed for. And besides, I'll state again that the party register is not a requirement for presidential candidates to emerge on the platform of political parties. It's just a backup means for INEC to deal with multiple candidatures and discrepancies or arguments. So the fact that even if Peter Obi's name is not in the register, that cannot lead to any disqualification because it is not a requirement to qualify to be a candidate of a political party. Read through the whole Electoral Act 2022. There is nowhere it is stated that your name being in the membership register is a requirement for you to be a presidential candidate. Nowhere it is stated. And don't forget that I say for the sake of argument, we assume the name is not in the Labour Party register. But of course, it is the prerogative of Labour Party to present that register. And when Labour Party is doing their final submission, of course, they will prove and submit their own register, which they have the prerogative and the exclusivity to do. And you will see that in that register, Peter Obi's name is there. But again, let's even say for the sake of argument that Peter Obi's name is not there in the Labour Party's own register. If you look at the antecedents of the rulings that the Supreme Court has given about what is or what constitutes the internal party affairs of a party that even a court cannot meddle in, then you will see that the APC, Tinubu or Shettima, cannot contest what is the internal affairs of the Labour Party. And that will mean that the court will simply just follow the antecedents of what the Supreme Court has ruled previously. And that would mean that membership register is the internal affairs of Labour Party. And of course, it will mean that the contestations of Tinubu and the APC, that Peter Obi is not a member of the Labour Party, would lack local standing. And of course, it will be struck out. So that is not a problem. But another thing that will be a corollary of this, if the contestation of Tinubu and APC were to be struck out for lack of local standing, will also mean that the contestation of LP, that Shettima is a double nomination of APC, will probably also be struck out on the grounds of lack of local standing. But that will not be a problem, because there is a stronger ground, which is the US drugs related case, which can lead to a possible disqualification. That is constitutional. It is spelt out there in the Constitution of Nigeria very, very clearly. And of course, you have the 25% of the FCT, which is interpreted previously as being conjunctive. That makes the 25% of the FCT a compulsory requirement for anybody to be declared winner, which Tinubu does not have. So that would mean that even if the double nomination of Shettima is struck out on the grounds of lack of local standing, there are still other grounds for which the Labour Party can reclaim the mandate for Peter Obi. And of course, that's not even mentioning the grand ground, the mega ground, which is the simple majority of Peter Obi, the simple majority that is won. And that is backed up by the fact that the primary evidence is the Form EC8A. And when that is collated, just 3 states, like I keep mentioning, by the time Lagos is done, Plateau is done, Rivers is done, you'll see that Peter Obi shoots into the lead. So no cause for alarm, no cause for worry at all. At this point, I want to thank before we continue in this video, I want to just take this time out to thank those of you that are supporting us on this channel. Your support is much appreciated. We have J316 Studios. Thank you for your support, for offering to pay for our data for 1 month. We appreciate it. Also, thank you, J King, for your super thanks. It is much appreciated. It is very, very much appreciated. As well as Remy Nadozier, your super chat is also very, very much appreciated. You see, your support will go a long way in helping us go out physically on the streets to engage with people, to create the necessary awareness, because there's awareness lacking at the grassroots. And we intend to go out to meet people one-on-one and give them the much needed education so that they can take the much needed action. Not just to help us retrieve this mandate, but to help us take back Nigeria and birth the new Nigeria that we all seek. So thank you very much for your support. It is much, much appreciated.